Here we go again with the fucking air conditioner. Today is the day that I get to go see Evil Dead burn. Am I excited? Well, let me put it this way. Sometime back in March or April, whenever the release date got confirmed for this movie, I requested a day off work. So yes, I'm excited. I've been waiting months for this. Actually, I've been waiting a little over a year since, it's been publicly known that this movie was going to come out. Evil Dead is my favorite franchise, and I would like to briefly talk about my history with the Evil Dead franchise. And that's what we're going to talk about today on Fugg and Let's Watch It. Our story begins on a dark and stormy night. Not really. It begins in maybe the year 2000. I think I was about 12 years old. And my mom was hanging out with her friend Star, and they were flipping through Comcast digital cable. Does anyone remember that? It was awesome at the time. But anyway, she was flipping through and said, "Oh, Army of Darkness is on here. You kids should watch this." Here's the funny thing about Army of Darkness. I remember the first time I tried to watch it, which was that night, but I don't remember the first time I finished it. Maybe I did finish it that night. I'm not real sure. But I remember it was hard for me to stay engaged. I was in the mood to watch a scary movie, and I didn't expect this full-blown comedy. And I remember kind of disliking the movie at the time. I was like, what's going on? We're in the medieval times. Oh, now we're fighting this demon-looking thing. What is going on? This dude's kind of an asshole. I just didn't get it at the time. So now we fast forward a couple years. I'm maybe 14 or 15 at this point, and me and my brother are at the Promised Land, aka Blockbuster, and we're browsing the horror section because, duh. But I remember my brother picking this up. He's like, "Oh, Evil Dead. We gotta see this. I heard it's awesome." Or maybe he had already seen it. I don't really remember that part. But anyway, we took it home, and for some reason we watched it in my stepsister's room, who was, I think, like 5-6 years younger than me. So she was pretty little, and we were about to subject her to the original Evil Dead. And I remember, unlike Army of Darkness, I laser focused in on this movie, and I loved it from the very beginning. What Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell were able to what they were able to create with such a low budget at the time must have been so creepy, and definitely like the most gory thing anybody had seen at the time. I fell in love with it immediately. I could watch Deadites terrorize people all day, and that's going to be a running theme for how I feel about these movies. That is still, given the day, or depending on the day, that is still one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and some days it's at the top. Absolutely love the original. Yet again, we're going to jump ahead a couple years. I must have been 18 or 19 at the time. I remember being at my grandma's house, and my brother either owned or rented, not sure. He said, "Oh, you like Evil Dead. You got to see Evil Dead 2. And I was like, "There's an Evil Dead 2? And I remember sitting down on my grandma's couch, and I was ready to watch another creepy movie, and I wasn't ready for the full-blown comedy that ensued. I loved Evil Dead 2 from the beginning. I must have been in the right mood. I was cracking up the whole time. The whole bit where Ash beats himself up with his hand, cutting his own hand off, Henrietta in the basement, him finally attaching that chainsaw with the iconic groovy line. It's that movie is so good, and I remember watching Evil Dead 1 and 2 back to back over and over and over. Now, like I said, I don't remember when I finished Army of Darkness, but I do remember having the realization, oh, it's a trilogy. He got sucked back in time. Oh, that makes so much more sense now. I will say that Army of Darkness is still my least favorite in the franchise. It is easily the best Ash performance. Bruce Campbell just kills that role. But whenever I'm binging a horror franchise about demons just terrorizing and ripping people apart, the comedy usually throws me off every single time. I don't hate Army of Darkness. That is still a 10 out of 10 comedy. It's just the one I go back to the least. And then we find ourselves in 2013. I remember me and my brother going to the movie theater to see this new Evil Dead movie, but it's not made by the creators. Oh, it's produced by them. Who's this new director? Fede Alvarez. Nobody fucking knows who this guy is. And we go in a little skeptic, because I remember I hadn't even watched a trailer, because I had learned by then that trailers ruin everything when it comes to horror movies. I don't watch a whole lot of trailers nowadays. I'll watch a teaser at best. But we go into this 2013 movie, and I remember thinking, I just hope they tone down the comedy a little bit. If it wants to be one of those so over-the-top it's funny type of movies, I'm all for that, but I'm just in the mood for a horror film. And man, that movie is so dark, so violent, and it is so much fun. I absolutely loved it. The ending with the raining blood, and she had to pull her arm out from under that truck, losing her hand, sticking it into a chainsaw and killing that thing, is like one of the most metal endings of all time. I absolutely love the 2013 movie, put Fede Alvarez on my radar, and I love everything he's done up to Romulus a couple years ago. 2013 is awesome. I remember leaving that theater saying, man, 2013 was so good, we'll definitely have a sequel. And going on 13 years later, and I'm still waiting on it. But I didn't have to wait long for Evil Dead content. Ash vs. Evil Dead came out in 2015, and man, I actually didn't get a chance to see it during its initial run, which is very depressing. So 2015, 16, 17, all the way into 18, I knew of this awesome Evil Dead show going on. They brought Ash back. Sam Raimi even directed a couple episodes, and I really wanted to see it, and I didn't get a chance to until the show was abruptly canceled. So by the time I got to see it, I just went out and bought the Blu-rays. I was fully expected to be kind of disappointed because I heard it ended abruptly, and man, I don't care how it ends. That show is amazing. It is so damn funny. It's basically Evil Dead 2 stretched out into a series. They brought Lucy Lawless, Xenia, the Warrior Princess in there. Oh, that show is so good. One of my favorite episodes is in Season 2, and it has a cameo from Ash's sister from the original Evil Dead. Cheryl, for the longest time, was my favorite Deadite. Her performance just knocks it out of the park. And there's a part whenever Cheryl pops up in the series, and I was like, oh my god, it's the same actress, that's so cool. And then halfway through the episode, she becomes a Deadite, and she didn't miss a beat. She's still just as creepy. She's the only one that does the creepy eye movements. That's so much fun. The show does end abruptly, so that was a little depressing. And after the show was gone, I was like, alright, I'll just keep waiting on that 2013 sequel. So by this point in the franchise, it is my favorite horror franchise. I am such a fan. I rewatch Ash vs. Evil Dead all the time. I binge through the movies all the time. I even started to find Evil Dead-ish movies. They have nothing to do with the franchise, but they are close enough, like Tales from the Crypt's Demon Knight, The Italian Demons 1 and 2. Awesome movies. I couldn't recommend them more. So I'm just enjoying my franchise, living life, and out of nowhere sometime in 2022, I get word that a new Evil Dead movie is coming out in 2023. I remember I was counting down the days to Rise. I was so excited. Yet again, didn't watch a trailer, didn't know what the premise was, but I remember the day going to see it because my ex at the time didn't want to go. She wasn't much into horror movies at the time. And I went to the theater alone, and I was blown away. I absolutely love Evil Dead Rise. I'm honestly shocked whenever people say they don't like it. Movies are subjective, and I get it, but the mom's performance alone, I think her name is Ellie as the Deadite, astonishing. She instantly became my new favorite Deadite, just inching out Cheryl because her acting is just on a whole other level. I absolutely loved it. The carnage is just insane. And then there's that weird body horror amalgamation at the end. Other than Evil Dead, anything body horror is my favorite horror genre of all time. So whenever these three Deadites merged into one at the end, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I fucking love it. And then there's that awesome Shining reference whenever the elevator opens up. I absolutely love Rise. It was such a fun time. And that brings us to today. I get to go see Evil Dead Burn. I think I leave in about an hour. And not only do we get Evil Dead Burn, Evil Dead Wrath comes out next year. So it's a really exciting time to be an Evil Dead fan. And of course, I'll give you a review of Evil Dead Burn whenever I get back home. I'll try to avoid gushing about spoilers. I know I'm going to be so excited. Evil Dead is one of those franchises where even if it's not as good, it's going to be probably like a 7 or 8 out of 10 for me. I just adore this. I just want to see Deadites terrorizing people in some cool ways, show me some creepy images, and I'm all in. I'm excited, and I'll give you the review afterwards. Okay, me and my girlfriend just got back from seeing Evil Dead Burn. Now, what I want to say first and foremost is make sure you stay for the post-credits and end-credits sequence. Okay, moving on. Overall, the movie was a blast. It was pretty straightforward. Long story short, the biggest douchebag you've ever met passes away pretty early on in the movie, and now his widow is going to stay with her in-laws after the funeral at this old dilapidated house that somebody inherited. I actually missed that part. I don't know who owned the house, but anyway, it's the family's house, and she's going to stay there, and Deadite carnage ensues. Pretty straightforward. And that is some of the most fun I've had in theaters in a long time. There was a lot of awesome, gory, violent moments, a lot of creepy moments. Whenever people start becoming Deadites, there was a lot of creepy stuff going on. A lot of humor as well. There's a grandma character, and you just know they're going to do some funny stuff with her, and she did not disappoint. That shit was hilarious. I don't want to delve into spoilers or anything like that. I will say this, though, because some people care about this. I would say about 80% of the effects you're going to see is all practical. It was fucking gorgeous. There was some CGI fire and some other stuff towards the end, but it didn't take me out of the movie at all. I had a blast. I love the opening of the movie, because the last couple of Evil Deads have had like a cold open where something happens and then it doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the movie. This one did. Kind of kicks off the movie in a way, and I was wondering how it was going to play out or how it was going to connect to the rest of the movie, and you figure out pretty quickly how it does. So A+ for that. Absolutely love the ending of the movie. And again, just to state it again, the post-credit scene or the mid-credit scene is pretty cool, and the one at the end, yeah, make sure you stay for the end credits. Overall, Evil Dead for me still remains a 10 out of 10 franchise. Some are a little bit higher than the other, but that's not enough for me to take any points off. This franchise is a blast, and I'm glad it stays that way.